You very much for I just got a message saying recording in progress. Okay. Thank you very much, Paul, for introducing me and for organizing this wonderful event where we all teachers from everywhere in the world come and talk about our experiences, research, good practice. And I can see many people in the chat who've attended the last session as well. Hello, everyone. I can see people from Egypt, Greece, Nigeria, where else? Birmingham in the UK, Azerbaijan, Tunisia, China, Russia, Senegal. Wow. Jordan, Palestine, Germany, India. Wow. Saudi Arabia. Everywhere, literally everywhere, which is amazing to see. And I'm excited to be with you here again today to talk about my research in the characteristics of effective EFL teachers as perceived by EFL teachers and Arab students. This is part 2. So last part, we talked about the socio-affective skills and the personal qualities that are in or that should be in an EFL teacher. Today we'll be talking about the subject knowledge and pedagogical skills. And before I'm again to this, I'm just going to again introduce myself to you. My name is Emad, and I consider myself as an educator. I hold several degrees in English language teaching, including MA TESOL and Applied Linguistics from Manchester in the UK. I have CELTA. Obviously, many of you know what CELTA is. I had to go through all that struggle. TESOL, PCELT, but obviously I enjoyed it. Yeah, CELTA is great. I always recommend it. TESOL, PCELT, but I'm also currently doing another postgraduate qualification in academic practice at the University of Central Lancashire. This degree is mainly focused on teaching and learning in higher education in the UK. It's not particularly focused on teaching the language or language acquisition, but it's focused more on teaching and learning and how they occur and the teaching theories and all this, which is great. Such a good qualification. I also recommend it to those who are interested in working in the education field in general. But if you also have an interest in teaching in higher education, I recommend this degree. It's called Postgraduate Certificate in Academic Practice. In some other organizations, they also call it PG Cert, Postgraduate Certificate in Education, I think. But yeah, so I'm currently working on this. I worked in the education sector for over 10 years, around 11 now. I worked mainly in the UK, but I also worked in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. I currently work as a module leader and a lecturer at the University of Central Lancashire on the MBA, which is Masters of Business Administration, and I specialize in teaching English for academic purposes, IELTS, the scary test, general and business English, but I also teach other modules such as research and study skills and graduate employment. I supervise MA TESOL and Applied Linguistics students at the University of Durham, and I'm also an associate fellow and external examiner at the Higher Education Academy in the UK. This is a lot of an introduction, but I just wanted to give you an idea about who I am and what I do so that you understand why I have interest into this area and why I'm doing this kind of research. So greetings, everyone. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be doing a little bit of recap on our previous lecture. We talked about effectiveness, what effective means, part 1 about the personal and socio-affective skills, purpose of the study, research questions, methodology and data collection tools, findings about pedagogical skills and subject knowledge, Q&As, and that's it. So effective. So Paul, could you put the poll on, please? So could you guys just say whether you think you are an effective teacher, yes, no, or you don't know, just to see what you guys think of yourselves. There's a poll on the screen, so if you could just choose yes, no, or don't know. Well, I wish. I'm just reading the comment from Samar. Well, I wish. Yes, thanks for Allah. Yeah. Yeah, but always looking for ways to improve. Great. Carmen, and that's why we're here today. This is why we're here. And do you think, oh my God, so I've got the answers now. We've got the results. So about 73% said yes, 23% said they don't know, and 4% said no. So let's see some of the characteristics today, and then we can reflect on this and reflect on our answers to this poll. So effective. Remember last time we talked about effectiveness and what the word effective means. Could you type in the chat what you think effective is and what we and if you attended the last session, what was the definitions that we all shared? Achieve goals, successful, productive, good listener, good communication skills. I'm trying to read the comments. Achieve objectives, successful. Again, so I see lots of very interesting answers similar to the ones we got last time. Effective, innovative. Innovative, that's a new one. We haven't heard this one before. That's a new one. I like it. Could you tell us more about what you mean by this? When you say innovative, how do you see a teacher innovative in class? That's a very interesting one. I like it. Encouraging, empathetic. Okay, so you're already now answering who an effective teacher is. So who's an effective teacher in your eyes? Who do you think is an effective teacher? Motivator. Motivating. It's like I like the word motivating and motivator, because I initially one of the words that I was choosing between is whether to choose effective or inspirational, good, great. So I had to choose between many words, but I just decided to go for the word effective in at the end. Interactive, creative, energetic. I'm just reading the comments. Great. It's hard to define. It is hard to define. That's right. All right. Now, could you think about your favorite teacher when you were at school? Your favorite teacher, the teacher that you always wanted to go and attend their classes. Who was that teacher, or what made that teacher special for you? Why did you like attending his or her classes? So I want you to describe your favorite teacher when you were a student. Think back when you were a student, or if you're still a student now, who is your favorite teacher, or who was your favorite teacher? And could you describe that person to us? If you could describe this person, what would you say about that teacher? She loves her subject. She explained everything and understood there was a problem and worked with you until you understood. I like that. Communicative, encouraging, explained everything well, and also listened to us when he had a question. Good listener. Brilliant. I like this. Would allow you to interact. You will see this in today's session. Shagufa Jamal. She loves her subject and she loves her students. Perfect. Also, this is connected. So loving her subject is connected to today's session as well. Teacher who teaches us playing game and friendly in nature. So friendly, Fariha, if you attended last week, we talked about the friendliness of the teacher and whether a teacher should be friendly. And we've seen like a huge division between the student's answer and the teacher's answer. Loving and caring and very informative. So let's see other answers. Oh, he made you feel comfortable. Carmen, that's a very good one. It's actually in my research as well. The teacher makes a comfortable environment, but unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about it today. But I should have mentioned it. listen to you. I can see that people said good listener or listen to me many times, which is great. A teacher with whom I am best friends until now. Helpful, but criticizing. Encouraged critical thinking and treated me with respect. Effective teacher, student center, knowledgeable. Wow, there's so many messages. I'm unable to read all of them, so I'm just going to carry on. But really good answers, guys. And I mean, very, very inspiring to see what makes an effective teacher. And then we try to reflect on that. And perhaps some of you are trying to do the same things that your favorite teacher did when you were a student. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I remember when my teacher used to create games in the classroom for us, and I enjoyed this so much. And now in my lessons, I always try to incorporate games in my classes. So perhaps that teacher has influenced my way of teaching as well. All right, so last time we said the word effective, it's hard to define. So basically the word effective means being successful and producing the desired or intended results. And this definition is agreed by all researchers in all fields, despite the various perception on effectiveness, because it's difficult to define. But also your answers were really on spot, so well done. You're really spot on. So the purpose of this study, why have I done this study, is because there has been little research into this area, and I wanted to see whether there's a mismatch between teachers and students' views or not in this context, because it's important to know. It reflects on teachers, on businesses, and on students. It's important to know who is an effective teacher. So my research questions, I had 3 research questions to answer. So what do EFL teachers perceive to be the characteristics of an effective EFL teacher? What do Arab students perceive to be the characteristics of effective EFL teachers? And are the characteristics of effective EFL teachers perceived by students different from those perceived by teachers? So it was more of like seeing both views, both teachers and students' views, and seeing whether we have similar ideas, similar opinions, or different ones. So the methodology, I used the mixed method in my research, and I used questionnaires to collect my data and ask both teachers and students. I also used semi-structured interviews, again, to interview both teachers and students. And I interviewed teachers who work in language institutions and universities in the UK. The students were mainly Arab students who also study English in the UK. I had about 113 teachers participating in this research and around 151 learners. So there was a lot of participants in this research. So pedagogical skills. What do we mean by this term, pedagogical? What do you mean by pedagogical skills? What comes to your mind when I say the word pedagogical or pedagogy? Related to education, teaching skills, the way of teaching, teaching skills, educational, useful methods. I'm reading the comments. Structural teaching, how to teach, teaching methods, procedures, techniques, educational, way of teaching, teaching and learning, how to teach, approach, teaching methods. Yeah. Methodologies, ways of teaching, different approaches, teaching effectively, teaching and learning methods. Yeah. So pedagogy is the study of the methods and activities of teaching. This is according to Cambridge Dictionary. In order to perform efficiently in any profession, one should have the knowledge of how to do it. They need to be familiar with the procedures and strategies to follow in the process, which is pedagogical knowledge. So this is why today we're going to be focusing on subject knowledge and pedagogical skills. So what I did is I created a questionnaire. So I looked at previous research and I looked at all the characteristics that they have listed under subject knowledge and pedagogical skills that should be in an effective teacher. And I used some of these, adapted them, and added more to them to meet my context needs. And I asked all the teachers, so I've given them a questionnaire. This is just a screenshot of the questionnaire. And the students and teachers had to complete the statement, which is highlighted in yellow. So they had to say, an effective English language teacher should be a native speaker of English. And on the right-hand side, you have to choose between either agree, disagree, or uncertain. So I wanted to see whether they agree that, for example, an effective English language teacher should be a native speaker of English or not. Yeah, so, and then they had to choose whether they agree or disagree or uncertain. So if they agree, if they were uncertain, they would just tick uncertain. If they agree, they would put either agree or strongly agree. If they disagree, they would put either disagree or strongly disagree. Today, as I said, we'll be focusing on the pedagogical skills and subject knowledge. So the first one we have here is to be capable of answering all students' questions. So an effective English language teacher should be capable of answering all students' questions. Now, let's try and do the same thing we did last week. So last week, I asked the participants or the people who have attended the webinar to tell us whether you agree or whether you disagree with this statement, or whether you're uncertain. So effective English language teachers should be capable of answering all students' questions. Now you'll see on the left-hand side, these are the students' answers, and I will show them in percentages as whether they agree, disagree, or uncertain. On the right-hand side, you will see the teachers' answers. And again, I will be using the percentages to demonstrate how many teachers agreed on that statement. So effective English language teachers should be capable of answering all students' questions. Do you agree or disagree, or are you not sure? Okay, so let's see what students said. So the students, 87% of them agreed, and 13% of them were uncertain. Let's look at the teacher's response. So, and as you can see from your answers in the chat, some people agree, some people disagree, some people are unsure, which again is a very good reflection of the answers that I have here. So the responses from the teachers were 35% of the teachers who took part in this questionnaire agreed on that item, that an effective English language teacher should be capable of answering all students' questions. However, 50% of them disagreed. So teacher cannot know everything. I'm reading Andrea's comment here. Andrea said, teachers cannot know everything. And I agree with you, Andrea. We can't know everything. We should have enough subject knowledge, yes, but we can't know everything. We're not like a computer or a robot. There might be things that we don't know, right? So perhaps students' expectation in this area also reflects on their educational background, because in some cultures, students would take the teacher as the source of knowledge, and they would just think, okay, you're the teacher, you should have all the answers. But in reality, no, the language, well, the knowledge could come from many sources. That could be a book, it could be from a teacher, a website, a video, an article. So there's lots of resources that students could use other than the teacher. Somebody in the chat said, well, Andrea again said, I'm a teacher of English, not a dictionary. Yes, I mean, yeah, we're not dictionaries. There are so many words to memorize, remember, and it might be impossible to memorize all of them. I speak Arabic as a first language. I don't know all the Arabic words in my own language. So how would I expect that a teacher who's teaching it to know all? I'm talking about non-native speakers, but I don't know. I'm also making the assumption that perhaps native English speakers don't know all the English words in a dictionary. And so the non-native English speakers. So it's I think it's equal in both cases. Okay, the second item, effective English language teachers should have English language teaching qualification. Do you agree or disagree? Let's see the students' response. 83% of students agreed on this, and 4% of them disagreed. So perhaps they didn't see it as important. But the majority of students clearly is expecting the teacher to have a teaching qualification. What about the teachers? Look at the teacher's response. The teacher response was different, completely different. Sorry about, there's a typo. It shouldn't be 7, it should be the percentage symbol. So it's 45%, not 457. Sorry about the typo, everybody. But yeah, but looking at the teacher's response, only 34% of them agreed. And 9% of them disagreed. 45% were uncertain. Actually, let me try and just fix this typo because I don't want it to affect people's understanding. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. Do you see, teachers make mistakes? Teachers make errors.
Do we admit those errors to our students?
Oh, why? Absolutely, yes. I always do. If I make a mistake, I always admit it. And I think it's good practice to show them that we're not robots, we're not machines, we're human beings. We make mistakes sometimes. And why not? And when you do that, you show them the human side of you. And I think actually that they can relate to you a bit more, and you can have stronger relationship with them when they can see the human side of you. Because no one is perfect. We make mistakes, don't we? But it's always good to admit your mistakes also, because you don't want to affect the learning. If you make a mistake, you just don't want them to copy your mistakes and keep doing it. So it's always good to reflect on your practice and say, oh, sorry guys, I made this mistake, and it should be this, not that. Okay, so the next item, the third item, how do you feel when admitting? Paulina, very good question. I feel a little bit awkward sometimes. Good question. How do you guys feel when you admit your error, or when you admit that you made a mistake? Yeah, but Ono expect us to be robots. It's all, yeah, we learn from our mistakes, aren't we? So yeah, I feel uncomfortable. I feel a bit awkward when I make a mistake, or when I made an error. And I always tell our students that I'm sorry I made this mistake. I'm sorry. I should have known, but I'm sorry I made this mistake. But it's nice. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's also, I think it's also encouraging to students to let them know that they can make mistakes as well. Many of my students, and I'm not sure if you have the same experience, correct me if I'm wrong. Many of my students, when we have any activities in class, they are shy of speaking because they are afraid of making mistakes. Do you have any similar experience? Yeah, so they're always afraid of making mistakes, and they're always reluctant to participate because they're afraid of making mistakes. Now, if I make a mistake and then they can see that the teacher can make mistakes themselves, then they would be more confident and more comfortable in making a mistake. And it would be like, okay, Emad has said this, has mispronounced that word, or has made a mistake when he was answering one of the questions. So it's fine to make a mistake. So I think it's good to be comfortable when we make mistakes and to reflect on it. We learn from our mistakes, and by admitting it, we encourage the students to make mistakes, which is fine as long as they can learn from it, right? Oh, Shagufa says that she deliberately makes one. So do you do it? Why do you do it, Shagufa? Tell us in the chat, please. I'm also going to carry on the next item, just so that we don't run out of time before we talk about them. But yeah, I'm interested to see your thoughts on this, guys. Okay, so an effective English language teacher should attend workshops and conferences to increase his or her knowledge about teaching. All right, now we're all here today in this webinar, which is a CPD. You're here to learn something new. So I'm taking it as that you all agree with this. Let's see the students' response. Students respond, 84% of them agreed, 15 were uncertain, maybe they weren't unsure, maybe it's important, maybe it's not important. Teachers, on the other hand, let's see the teachers, 40% of them agreed, or 39 to be more specific, and 55 disagreed. I don't know why, but perhaps they thought, I don't need to be effective. I don't need to attend workshops and conferences to be effective. Perhaps that's how they interpreted this item. Yeah, it's a good question. Why did they disagree? Because maybe they think that attending workshops and conferences might not be as useful as having a qualification. So perhaps if I have the experience and qualification, I'm good. I don't need to go to workshops and conferences. Some people see it as a waste of time. Whether that's right or wrong, that's just a point of view. And that's actually one of the answers when I interviewed one of the teachers. She said, I don't have time to go and attend conferences and workshops. And I'm still an effective teacher. I've got a teaching qualification and I have got experience. My students are successful, they learn. I don't have to go to conferences and workshops to be an effective teacher. All right, the following one, be fluent in English. English language teachers should be fluent in English. What do you think the response was? So from students, all of them agreed. There was not a single student who disagreed on this. Teachers, 36% of them agreed, 61 disagreed. Okay, I know you all have the question is, why do teachers disagree on this item? Many of them thought that I can have certain level of English, even if I'm not very fluent or extremely fluent, I can still teach English. I can still teach perhaps lower level students. Or perhaps if I'm preparing some students for a writing exam, I don't have to be fluent in English in terms of the speaking abilities. So again, something to think about. An effective English language teacher should teach English in English only. And that's something that we always have a debate on. Should I use, if I can, obviously, if I speak students' first language, should I teach English in the student's first language? Or should I just stick to English and speak English all the time and only use English in the classroom? So the students, 68% of them agreed, 15% of them disagreed, 17 were uncertain. And here you see that when I asked some of the students, they said, because sometimes we don't understand what the teacher is saying, we want them to tell us what it means in our first language, or that we also, as students, we want to use the dictionaries to translate this into our own language to understand it better. So again, it's a very controversial area. And also in research, in some research, I don't remember which one exactly, I'm just going to be so vague now, but there is research to suggest that using translation in teaching can actually improve or help the students in learning English or learning a foreign language in general, not just English, but using translation can actually be very helpful. I don't know what research it was exactly, I can't remember the title, but there is actually several research into this area. The teachers, 38% of them agreed, 39 disagreed, and 23 were uncertain. Allow students to correct each other. Peer correction. Do you ever do this? Peer assessment. Do you ever do this? Yes, you do it. Okay, so let's see the students' point of view. 85% of them agreed, so they actually like this kind of practice. And when I asked the student why, they said because they feel less intimidated and less embarrassed, because sometimes the students might feel embarrassed from the teacher, but when it comes from a peer, from one of their classmates, they feel more comfortable with it. 7% of them disagreed. And when I asked some of the students who actually expressed the thoughts on this area, and they said, I want the teacher to correct me because the teacher knows better. The other students might not correct me correctly. So I want to hear the answer from the teacher, not from my other classmate, because I don't trust my other classmate. The teachers, 42% of them agreed, 47% disagreed. I can see a division here. Like a lot of teachers were like, perhaps not. And some of the teachers might say, I also don't trust the students when they correct their peers in class, so I have to correct them myself. Okay, give students plenty of time to answer questions. This is one of the items that I reflected on myself as a teacher, because I always ask the students questions and I always expect them to answer immediately. In less than a second, I want to hear the answer, because I feel very awkward in that silence when I ask a question. How many of you have ever asked that question in a classroom and you waited there and there's just silence? You can't hear any question. You can't hear any answers from the students, and it becomes very awkward and very embarrassing sometimes. Just like you want this time to go quickly, but it just goes very slowly. And it's because we expect the teacher to respond immediately, but we need to give them some time to think. Give them some time to think about the answer. Stay there for like 1 minute or 2 minutes. It's okay. That 1 minute will feel like a year, but wait, give them some time to process your question, to think about an answer. Remember, they're doing all this and they're trying to produce it in their second language. So give them some time. But let's see the answers. 91% of them agreed. They said, yes, we need plenty of time to answer the questions. 1% of them disagreed. I don't know why. I can't answer that. But 8% of them were uncertain. Perhaps those ones, I would, maybe those are the higher achiever students who always like answer the questions immediately, and they don't really need plenty of time to answer questions. Teachers, let's see the teachers' responses. So 40% of them agreed, 50% of them disagreed, and 9% of them were uncertain. Okay, the ones who disagreed, I'm making an assumption here. Some teachers have very short time in class, and it might not be possible to give them plenty of time. That's the key word here, plenty of time to answer the questions. So they want to get things quickly. Let's just crack on. I have to go to the next activity. I have to teach you the next thing. So let's just get on with it. And they don't give students perhaps plenty of time. Perhaps the word plenty here misled the teachers when they chose their answers here. Because when we say plenty, what do we mean by plenty? Do we mean more than enough, or do we mean enough? I did that so quickly. Use authority to control students' behavior in classroom if necessary. Use authority to control students' behavior in classroom if necessary. Our teacher's nature. I am the authority here in the classroom. I make the rules, you follow my rules, and that's it. Some people I see, I love this because look at your answers in the chat. If you all look at the answers here, you will see that even you agree. Some of you agree, some of you disagree, some of you are uncertain, which is again a reflection of the response here. So 35% of teachers agreed, 53% disagreed. The students, on the other hand, 76% of them agreed on this item. They thought we want the teacher to have the authority in the classroom. I want to tell you something though, based on my experience teaching different kinds of students, most of my students from China, I taught lots of students from China and Japan. and they expect the teacher to have all the control in the classroom. In other cultures, mostly in Western countries, in the UK, for instance, the students, the hierarchy here, or the power distance between the teacher and the student isn't necessarily the same as other cultures. Students have a voice in the classroom in the UK's culture. From my own personal experience, especially in colleges and higher education settings. It might be different in schools, I don't know, but I'm talking about colleges and higher educations and institutions. Okay, encourage students, the next item, encourage students to use English all the time in class, which is similar to what we said earlier, teach English and English only. But some students would be talking to one another in their first language or in a different language. So what do we do here? So 96% of students agreed on this. They wanted to speak English all the time in class. So you see, when they have the decision to make, they will choose this one. They would choose to speak English all the time. In classrooms, sometimes they might have the tendency to use their own language or the first language, to be more specific. But when it comes to making a decision, they chose using English all the time. The teachers said, well, 39% agreed, 52% disagreed. Again, that takes me back to what I said earlier. Some teachers actually believe that using translation in the classroom or dictionaries to help students and their language acquisition is actually useful. And they would allow students to use dictionaries to translate the words, not from English to English, but from English to the student's first language. Oh, I'm so quick. Use group and pair work. Use group and pair work. What do you guys think? Do you use group work? Group pair work? I always do. I always do pair work and group work. Individual as well. I mean, sometimes I have individual tasks, but I always like the group work and pair work. I like to see them communicating all the time, because it does have a good impact on their language learning and acquisition. And I could see how it affects their speaking confidence as well, because the more they speak, the more they get used to it. So 94% of students agreed, 2% disagreed. And I tell you, I don't know those particular participants why those 2% disagreed. But again, from my personal experience, when I speak to students and tell them why you don't like to participate in group work and pair work, some of them say that it's perhaps because they don't want to work with a particular student in classroom, or perhaps that they have some social anxiety and they don't like to work in groups, which is completely understandable. And this is why, as teachers, we have to be aware of our students' needs. If you know that we have one student, two students who are perhaps very shy, or perhaps has some social anxiety and they don't like to communicate with other people, then I think we have to accommodate their needs. We can't force them to work in bigger groups. So when I spoke to one of my students before, who expressed that she feels very anxious when dealing with other people, I said, okay, how do you want me to engage you in the classroom? She said, I'm happy to work with one student or two other students maximum, but a group of more than 3 people really makes me anxious. And I don't like to work with bigger groups. So in my mind, every time I put them in groups, I have to put that one student with a small group, or I make her work only with another student, so that she doesn't feel very anxious in the classroom, because I want to make it a comfortable a comfortable environment for everyone, including everyone in my classroom, engaging all of them and not making anyone feeling left out. Teachers, let's see the teachers' response. 39% agreed and the majority disagreed on this. And I asked one of the teachers why you don't use pair work, or why you don't think this is important. They said, when they put the students in groups, they always talk about irrelevant things to the task that they're working on. But also sometimes that they don't have enough time in the classroom to have pair work or group work. So only 40%, only 39% of them agreed because they see the value of it, but perhaps the other teachers, I don't know, but you tell me why they disagreed. Why do you think they disagreed on using pair work and group work? I'm just going to look at the chat because I want to read, there's a comment there that caught my eye. So I'm from Germany. Our teachers don't bother worrying about social anxiety. Good to hear. That has changed at least for some teachers by now. Yes, Isabel. I mean, I think I was lucky enough that the student confined me and she thought that she could tell me this. Other teachers may not know it, and other teachers may not even be aware of it. So always have that chat with your student. Tell them what they feel comfortable doing in the classroom. I always do that at the beginning in the first few 1 or 2 sessions. I'll talk to my students. What kind of activities do you guys like to do in classroom? Do you like pair work, group work? Do you like lots of reading and less speaking activity? So I always like to get to know them. So it's always about knowing our students and building rapport with our students, making them confident in talking to us. Okay, the next one, the one that is about grammar. So teach grammar effectively. I'm just aware of the time, so I'm just going to go through these items quicker. So you see, I'm not very good at time management either. Okay, so teach grammar effectively. 97% of them agreed, and 3% of them were uncertain. Lots of interest from the student side on grammar teaching. Teachers were not bothered. Well, 40% agreed, 56% disagreed. Because we always look at grammar as one element of the language and not the main thing. Use technology and visual materials, 93% of them. Especially younger generations, they always like to use technology nowadays. Teachers, only 37% agreed, 55% disagreed. Use lesson plans, 71% of students agreed, and 34% of teachers agreed. You see the division here, and some teachers believe that lesson plans take very long time, and when they actually start teaching, they do other things in the classroom and they adapt as the class go. Some people don't like to have a lesson plan. They go in the classroom and they do their own thing. Sometimes they have better activities than the ones they had already planned when they wrote their lesson plan. Sometimes I think writing a lesson plan can be really time consuming. I know, I'm a teacher as well. I know writing a lesson plan takes a long time, but I'm not going to say that we shouldn't do it. I'm not in a position to say that. Obviously, it's important to plan your lesson, to know what you're going to be doing, to at least have a structure for your lesson. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Assign homework. What do you think students said here about assigning homework? %77% agreed. I was actually surprised because I thought students don't like homework because all students, oh, don't give us homework, please. Oh, Emad, don't give us homework. No, we don't want to do it. But when they have the choice, 77% agreed. Teachers, 40% of them agreed. So perhaps teachers don't like to do it. And when I asked one of the teachers, said, because when I give them homework, I have to mark it. I have to correct it. And that is time consuming. I don't have time to mark all my students' homework every time. So it's not very easy to give them homework. Be the central authority in the classroom on deciding on the activities. This takes us back to another similar item we talked about earlier. 48% of them agreed, but you will see that other students wanted also to have more freedom. They want to be engaged in creating the classroom activities, or perhaps choosing what kind of activities they do in classroom. 38% of the teachers agreed on this. So they wanted to be the central authority in creating and deciding on the activities. And 40% of the teachers disagreed. They wanted to give the students more voice and give them more freedom in choosing the kind of activities they do in classroom. So just a summary of the research results, we can obviously see a mismatch between the students and the teachers. The mismatch between the students and teachers was very clear from the quantitative results. The qualitative results, which is taken from the interviews, showed more similarities between both teachers and students' perception of an effective EFL teacher. The socio-affective skills were endorsed highly by both groups. We talked about socio-affective skills last time. And the least important category was the personal qualities for students, and subject knowledge matter for the teachers. The qualitative data, which I collected by doing the interviews, resulted in different items that were produced by the interviewees, such as saying a conscientious teacher, kind, approachable, and confident. Teachers and students reported that EFL teachers must teach students how to learn, and they have to be patient, kind, and they have to give attention to students. Students also continued saying that the teachers must know his or her subject in detail and be approachable, and must not be lenient with students. The teacher must be tough. Teacher must not be lenient, must not be tough, must not get angry, and must not assume knowledge that students may or may not have. From the quantitative findings from the questionnaire, the most important characteristics of an effective EFL teacher for students are: 1, to have fluency in English, to be polite and respect students' personality, use a variety of teaching methods. For the teachers, on the other hand, the most important characteristics were to be strict, to teach English in students' first language, and to be capable of answering all students' questions. So those were the highlights of the results. So what's next? So the next step is to match theory with practice. In other words, to see how the EFL teacher's beliefs about the main characteristics of an effective EFL teacher reflect their practice in the classroom when teaching students. So reflect on your own practice and your own skills, qualities. What do you have as what kind of skills do you have as a teacher that makes you an effective one? Based on what we talked about today, but also speak to your students, because the students that I collected data from could be different to the students that you're teaching. Your context could be completely different to mine. You might have a completely different response from your students. So always speak to your students, have that chat with them, and monitor their behavior when you behave with them in a certain way. When you are more friendly in the classroom, do you see the students engaged more, and do you see them happier in the classroom when you are friendlier with them in the classroom? Or are they happier when you are more strict? Are they happier when you have more authority in the classroom? Again, this will all be based on your own observation in your own context, because it might be different to other contexts. By noticing the differential effects, ELT-oriented research can guide the teacher and the teacher trainer towards principle in effective language instruction. Moreover, it can help in training teachers in their induction period and to understand what the learners are expecting their teachers to be, behave, and deal with them. Language schools participated in this research can use the findings of this kind of research to inform the teachers about the expectations of the learners that they have, and to cross the gap between the perceptions of both teachers and students. The more we know about ELT characteristics, the more likely we are to develop language teacher preparation models that develop aspects of relevant language teaching. These models may fulfill some of the many requirements of effective classroom communication, as well as help in setting up standards for language instruction evaluation. These teacher training models may, 1, provide language teachers with sufficient knowledge and experience in the specific subject matter. 2, suggest breadth and depth of insight and involvement with the creative aspects of the specific subject area, as well as understanding of related and general areas of knowledge. 3, it can also help organize the content knowledge in a manner that facilitates or enhances the teacher's pedagogical knowledge. I don't think I have enough time to talk about future research recommendations. But I'm just going to go directly to questions and answers because I wanted to see if any one of you guys have any questions that you would like to ask. It's more important that I give you some time to